Welcome to Ping 24. Updates. Subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. Tonight, a story of crisis on the high seas unfolds, a tale of tension, uncertainty, and the razor's edge between peace and war. As darkness falls, the world's attention turns to the churning waters, where a new chapter in naval history is being written. The relentless storm mirrors the chaos brewing beneath the surface, as powerful forces collide in a contest for dominance. What began as a routine U.S. Navy operation in the South China Sea has suddenly erupted into violence, shattering the fragile calm. Reports are flooding in, missile fire streaking across the sky, drone attacks buzzing overhead, and ship-to-ship combat breaking out in the darkness. This isn't a drill, it's a real and immediate threat. The crew scrambles to their stations, adrenaline surging as alarms blare. Around the globe, millions watch in disbelief, wondering if this is the spark that could ignite a much larger conflict. On board the USS John Paul Jones, radar operators detect fast-moving military contacts, unknown, unpredictable, and closing in fast. The confrontation unfolds near the contested Spratly Islands, a region bristling with military hardware and claimed by multiple nations, but heavily fortified by Beijing. In these treacherous waters, a flashpoint has become a clash of steel and willpower, with consequences that could ripple across the globe. What started as a standard surveillance mission has escalated with terrifying speed, catching even seasoned sailors off guard. The American crew issued repeated warnings over the radio, but the response was swift and aggressive. Hostile maneuvers that left no doubt about their intent. Enemy fast attack boats closed in, their intentions unmistakable: to challenge, provoke, and, if necessary, to fight. The rules of engagement, carefully crafted to prevent escalation, were about to be put to the ultimate test. In Washington, the White House is in lockdown. The National Security Council has convened for an emergency session, racing to respond as events spiral out of control. This is the nightmare scenario that military planners and diplomats have warned about for decades, a single incident spiraling into a global crisis. All it takes is an accidental collision, a miscalculation, or a moment of unchecked aggression, actions that cannot be undone, with consequences that could last for generations. The brave men and women aboard the USS John Paul Jones now find themselves on the front line of a conflict the world is only beginning to comprehend. Their story is the story of this crisis, of courage, duty, and the burden of decisions made in the heat of battle. Across continents, people hold their breath, gripped by anxiety, waiting for the next development, hoping for peace but fearing the worst. The stakes have never been higher. The world stands at the edge, watching, as history is written in the gathering storm. The USS John Paul Jones, an advanced warship, sails into a tense region. Its mission: uphold the freedom of the seas. Captain Eva Rostova watches the radar, aware of the approaching threat. The Chinese vessels, including the destroyer Kunming, see the American presence as a provocation. Two steel giants, representing two world powers, are on a collision course. The tension in the Combat Information Center is palpable. Every flicker, every beep could signal the start of a war. The rules of engagement are a tightrope. Act too soon, and you start a war. Act too late, and you and your crew are dead. The Chinese ships maintain radio silence, communicating with their movements. They weave crossing the American destroyer's bow in a dangerous game. On the bridge, the helmsman waits for the captain's order. The silent standoff cannot last. The air is electric with the unspoken question: who will blink first? The stakes are high, and the world watches. The tension builds as both sides prepare for the inevitable. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future. The world holds its breath, waiting for the next move. The breaking point came without a sound, a moment suspended in the darkness, heavy with anticipation. Deep inside the ship, a young radar operator's voice trembled as he called out, "Captain, I have fire control radar lock." This was the unambiguous sign of hostile intent, a digital crosshair now fixed on their position. On the bridge, Captain Rostova didn't hesitate. She gave the order: sound general quarters, her voice cutting through the tension. Alarms blared, echoing through steel corridors, and the ship transformed into a fighting machine as sailors rushed to their stations. The Chinese response was immediate and terrifying, a show of force that left no room for doubt. Suddenly, a missile launch was detected, streaking low and fast across the waves toward the John Paul Jones. The crew had only seconds to react, relying on their training and the ship's advanced defense systems to survive. "Deploy countermeasures! Engage with CRAM!" Captain Rostova's voice remained calm, steadying her crew in the chaos. the ship's defenses roared to life, CRAM batteries tracking and firing, intercepting the incoming missile with deadly precision. A brilliant flash lit up the horizon. The night sky momentarily turned to day by a successful intercept. Relief was short-lived. This was not the end. It was only the beginning of a much larger confrontation. The Chinese missile was a near miss, a calculated shot across the bow, a warning that could not be ignored. The message was clear: we are willing to shoot. Are you prepared to answer? The initial confrontation was over, but the question now hung heavy in the air, echoing in every silent glance. The first shot had been fired, and the unwritten rules of engagement had been shattered in an instant. Now the American destroyer faced a critical decision, the weight of responsibility pressing on every officer. How would they respond to this violent message? Retaliate, de-escalate, or hold the line? The world watched, breath held, as news of the confrontation spread and tensions rippled across the globe. The stakes have never been higher, with every decision carrying the risk of escalation or disaster. Both sides braced for what might come next, preparing weapons and scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future, not just for these ships, but for the entire world. The decision was made on the bridge of the USS John Paul Jones, where tension hung thick in the air. Every officer knew that what happened next could change the course of history. The near miss was not a warning, it was an attack, sudden and violent, shattering the uneasy calm that had settled over the fleet. Without hesitation, Captain Rostova ordered a Tomahawk missile launch, her voice steady, despite the chaos erupting around her. The battle had begun in earnest, with both sides unleashing their full might in a storm of steel and fire. The Chinese were prepared, lighting up the sky with defensive fire, their ships bristling with anti-missile systems and determination. The Americans responded in kind, firing multiple missiles in rapid succession, each one streaking toward the Chinese flotilla with deadly intent. The smaller Chinese corvettes surged forward, guns blazing, weaving through the chaos to press their attack at close range. The John Paul Jones maneuvered hard, engines roaring as it returned fire, its crew working in perfect unison under pressure. The Kunming was hit, smoke pouring from its superstructure, alarms blaring as damage control teams rushed to contain the fires. But it was not out of the fight. Despite the damage, the Kunming launched another volley of missiles, refusing to back down. The defensive systems of the John Paul Jones were pushed to their absolute limit, interceptors and countermeasures working overtime. Interceptors launched, guns blazed, and electronic warfare systems jammed threats, creating a wall of defense against the incoming barrage. 2 missiles were destroyed in midair, a third was decoyed away, but the 4th missile slipped through the defenses. The impact was devastating, shaking the entire vessel to its core, sending crew members sprawling and alarms screaming throughout the ship. The ship was hurt, the crew shaken, but their resolve only hardened. They scrambled to their stations, determined to keep fighting. The initial exchange of fire was over, and both sides had drawn blood. The scars of battle were already visible on the battered ships. The conflict had escalated to a full-blown naval battle, with neither side willing to yield an inch of the contested sea. Around the world, millions watched in real time, eyes glued to screens as the fate of nations played out on the waves. In command centers and war rooms, leaders and strategists monitored every move, knowing the stakes had never been higher. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future, not just for those at sea, but for the entire world watching and waiting. As the crew fought fires, a new threat emerged, a drone swarm. Dozens of small, autonomous aircraft appeared, flying low over the waves. This was the new face of naval warfare, a nightmare. The drones attacked with sheer mass, overwhelming the ship's defenses. The Phalanx CIWS fired, shredding several drones, but there were too many. The drones hit the ship, causing small explosions and damage. The cumulative effect was like 1,000 cuts, dismantling the ship. The psychological toll was immense, the chaos overwhelming. Captain Rostova knew her ship was in grave danger. The missile strike had wounded her, and the drone swarm was trying to finish her off. The battle had become a desperate struggle for survival. The world watches, waiting for the next move. The stakes have never been higher. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future. The tension builds as both sides prepare for the inevitable. Inside the wounded vessel, the battle was fierce. Damage control teams fought fires and flooding, the heart of the ship's resilience. In the medical bay, corpsmen tended to the wounded. Every sailor was a warrior, fighting to save their ship and each other. On the bridge, Captain Rostova felt the exhaustion, but remained a pillar of strength. Her calm demeanor was a weapon against fear and panic. The bravery was everywhere, in every sailor's actions. They were fighting for each other, for their ship to go home. The human cost and strength in a battle like this are immense. The world watches, waiting for the next move. The stakes have never been higher. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future. The tension builds as both sides prepare for the inevitable. The world holds its breath, waiting for what comes next. The world begins to grasp the magnitude of the crisis. This is a direct military engagement between two nuclear-armed superpowers. Financial markets react and diplomatic channels are ablaze. Allies face a terrible choice: stand with the US or call for restraint. The strategic stakes are immense, a test of US credibility and China's regional dominance. This is not a fight over a few rocks, it's a fight for the future. The sailors are the leading edge of this monumental struggle. The outcome could determine which vision will shape the 21st century. The world holds its breath, praying this fire can be contained. The stakes have never been higher. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future. As the sun rises, an eerie calm descends over the battlefield. The drone swarm exhausted, remnants littering the sea. The missile exchanges stopped, but the two combatants remain visible. The USS John Paul Jones is battered but afloat, its flag still flying. The Chinese destroyer the Kunming is similarly damaged. Both sides are exhausted, having survived the night. Now comes the grim task of assessment. The human cost of this single night is staggering. The standoff resumes, a quiet, hateful stare between two fighters. The immediate battle is over, but the conflict is not. The sun rises on a scene of destruction, a testament to the failure of diplomacy. The sea is calm, but it is the calm of a graveyard. The world watches, waiting for the next move. The stakes have never been higher. The outcome of this encounter could shape the future. The tension builds as both sides prepare for the inevitable. The world holds its breath, waiting for what comes next. The stakes have never been higher. As the world wakes up to the news, questions arise. Who was right? Both sides believe they were responding to aggression. In the fog of war, truth is often the first casualty. Can we ever truly know who is to blame for the first shot? The second question is one of military strategy. Who should strike first in a situation like this? The USS John Paul Jones waited until it was targeted. Was that the right call? Striking first might have prevented damage. The most pressing question: what comes next? Both fleets are sending reinforcements to the area. Will commanders de-escalate, or will more firepower add fuel to the fire? The world has not been this close to a major power war in over half a century. The next 24 hours will be critical. The decisions made will determine whether this incident becomes a tragic footnote or the opening chapter of a third world war. The world watches and waits.